it's a very common topic, very similar to what we had written lot many times in our school days. Science is replacing Orcas. So when I was a kid, my father used to tell a story. Somebody has developed something similar to a computer which can answer any questions. Later on, I found that it was written by Frederick Brown. The answer, it's a very short story. Well, the first question he asked was, is there a God? And the answer was a little bit scary. Yes, now there is a God. That's what the machine tried to reply. It's a story, it's a fiction, fine. The question is that what arises in my mind, if I had created a God, will the God listen to me? And if I have created a God and if God doesn't listen to me, then why should I create it? I didn't have any answer till now.
Mr. Mukherjee, if you could just give us a brief idea on your thoughts about what you feel about generative AI, how is it that is affecting the space you're working in, and where do you see this moving in the future?
So essentially, see, what we are seeing in the industry is everyone is trying to get into this space, even though it is not yet mature. Okay, so if I talk about our customers, they are trying to do certain POCs and PODs to see how they can leverage the technology and utilize it for their efficiency improvement. Now as Mr. Pal was also saying, it depends how you use the technology, right? So there are deep fakes also coming in the market using AI, generative AI technologies, which we should try to avoid, and that is where another field is picking up, which is responsible AI. So responsible AI is what basically will keep the generative AI honest, ethical, so that people use it for their efficiency improvement rather than utilizing it for deep stuffs like deepfakes and all.
The media industry, which is so widespread, which reaches out to the audience in a jiffy, what is the use cases of generative AI in your specific industry? And perhaps then we can then get into the regulations aspect of landscape as well. So over to you.
It could be being used for applications where people's lives are at stakes. So when you are developing AI models, the need for transparency and the need for people to understand what's happening is very crucial, right? So when you're moving at a very high speed, when you're doing something today and something else tomorrow, you're not giving people the time to evaluate what you have done. If you look at it today, right, let's think about maybe just 10 days back. Google announces Gemini 1.5 with 1 million token context. What would that mean? What would that imply? How would that change the kind of software that we are building today? Before I could even think about that, I think another company came out with another huge model, right? And the next day, the same thing happened. Every day, 2-3 companies were releasing huge models. How does someone who is building software over that even get time to evaluate, get time to make sure that the applications which I'm building, they are safe, they are good for people to use? I'll probably just have to shut my eyes and start developing. And this is not the best thing to have, right? You need to have mechanisms in place which can evaluate models for you, which can nitpick models for you, and come up with metrics around how safe they are, how transparent they are.
Mr. Subhamoy, pivoting on what Anubhav said, are there any instances in your industry where you haven't really understood what has happened, but you have to go along with the flow? Can you perhaps point out a few examples in your industry?
If we divide the problem into the content types, for example, if we start with text, many media houses are now generating reports using Gen AI. So the typical example is market analysis. When you do a market analysis of a mutual fund or a script, you don't need to do much creative writing there. You need to get the data and put a narrative about that. So New York Times, for example, does that. So you won't be able to discover whether that's a machine-generated content or that's a human-generated content. It's that perfect now. It's being used by some other media houses also, but not to that extent. So NYT is one of the biggest player in that. If we now move into image is again a big use case. One of the use case is you kind of create content, create image, which you can see and tell that okay, this is GenAI generated content. Is if people try to create image which just looks like a real image, then there is a problem. Then you have to kind of put a disclaimer and see that it's an AI generated image. Now, if a media doesn't do that, for example, it creates an image which just looks like you, but actually it's not you, it's a GenAI generated image. So what should be done? So that's where the engineering line comes in. While these deepfakes and others are being talked about, there is no mechanism built into deepfakes or those lookalikes where somebody can detect that this is a GenAI image or this is an original image. It was conveniently eased away. So that is something that we should look when we go for further investment into that. Now GenAI has come into play here. What it can do is it can enhance the image. So far you have seen that you can crop an image, you can compress an image. Have you been able to increase the size of an image without distorting the quality? We have not been able to. GenAI can do that. So it doesn't distort the image. If it's an image of a tiger, it will remain an image of tiger. It will not become an image of Modi. So that's the difference. We do a lot of videos which doesn't have the subtext. So you have to listen to that. You don't have an option to read. Suppose you are in a position you can't listen to the audio, you can only read that. So how do you do that? Again, GenAI comes into play. It can create text out of a video. So you plug in a video. In fact, it can be done on YouTube also. You can pass a YouTube link and it can generate the full audio text out of that. If you can pass on the text to a GenAI engine, it can create the meta, it can create the subtitles, it can create all the necessary stuff so that Google can recognize it at the top of its cycle. So these are the basic use cases that we are doing, and some of these cases we are not doing ourselves, but maybe in a large extent it's doing.
So Arka, over to you. Like I mentioned, you have Anubhav who's saying that it's going at a very fast pace, people are not understanding what they are being given. You have Mr. Subhamoy pointing out to such huge advancements that have already happened. Is there any regulatory way to handle this? Has anything happened across the globe that you can pick up?
So yes, very relevant, but lots of countries are scrambling to make a well-defined regulatory framework for this, but it's very difficult. Again, given the pace at which it's moving, given the complexity of the technology, as well as Mr. Subhamoy pointed out, that how do we differentiate between something that is generated with AI or with something which is original? So there was a technology, or I would say a model, I think Anubhav will be able to explain better, called general adversarial networks, right? Where there is a discriminator and a generator. The generator basically generates the images from random noise, which are artificially generated as synthetic data, as Mr. Samrat pointed out. And the discriminator's job is to differentiate between a real and a fake image. They basically engage in a competitive sort of war with rewards and punishments so that each of them can get better.
So, are there any questions in the audience that, yes ma'am?
I'd like to know the thoughts on OpenAI Soda, which is a video generative AI, and it has been making a very realistic content, which looks very real at a glance.
So Sora was released by OpenAI, and they obviously generate hyper-realistic videos, but there are some problems associated with it. For example, if a very complex prompt is given to it to generate a video, then it messes it up.
Being an environment enthusiast, I do have to bring that angle in that how AI or generative AI has been absolutely useful in detecting movements of wildlife herds all across, especially in India, all across the globe. And what has actually helped in that is that it kind of reduces the possibility of a human-wildlife conflict. So it's more about who is using the data, how they're using the data, because this is a technology that is there to stay. We just have to make the best use of it.
Regarding the working of generative AI, can it truly be creative? Like the data that is fed on the AI, like can it create something new?
So yes, obviously if artificial intelligence in itself becomes as creative as humans, we reach a point of singularity where Gen AI takeovers the world. But yeah, of course the level of creativity of or the sentience, that's more like artificial general intelligence, that's a separate topic, AGI. But in terms of design thinking approach and creativity, I don't think Gen AI right now can sort of supplement or complement human creativity as of now.
So thank you so much to my esteemed panelists for this very engaging discussion. And thank you very much to NSHM for organizing this and calling us in. Thank you all.